So recently a friend of mine, James, hosted an event in Sofia, Bulgaria. He invited me to speak at the event, and one of the attendees actually reached out to me to organise a podcast. This gentleman, Plamen, asked me some of the best questions I've ever been asked about making money online after having now made a couple of million online through my online businesses. In this clip from that podcast, you'll see what I share is breaking down how simple it really is to make $1 million online. You see, I've done it the hard way. I've done that with a business where I overcomplicated things. I hired too many people and I created systems that didn't need to be there. I originally took another business to 7 figures with a really simple approach. I'm hoping that by sharing this with you, you'll be able to do something similar and hopefully get some inspiration from how I did it.
So powerful, because I think for me as well, it's like hearing that speech, and I think it was just me coming out of that thing of like learning it the hard way, of not overcomplicating things and then stepping away. And it's a bit of ego you kind of have to let go of as well. It's like you don't need to make things more complex. You touched on like a few things here. You touched on 3 kind of key things, like getting clients, getting client results, and then I guess the last one was just the sales process behind it as well. Um, my thought process here, my question is, what would you say? So most people listening to this be coaches, content creators. What would you say would be the kind of biggest pillars or the biggest kind of habits and tasks you would prioritize with your clients to get things off the ground, to hit their first 5 or 10K a month online?
Love it, man. Well, let's look at that. As you said, for coaches, for content creators, right? To nail that down, get to 5 to 10K a month. The first thing is really offer, okay? Like make sure you have an offer. Obviously, you need to have something to sell. But when I say it's the first thing, I don't mean it's the thing you spend all the time on. And I don't mean that you don't do any of the other things just because your offer isn't perfect, right? So offer. What is your offer? What's the pricing? Rock with that, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Find a model that's worked for other people. Find a pricing model that's pretty similar and one that you think you could work with, and go with that. You can always change it down the line. One thing I'll mention on that, Plamen, is the name of my program is called the Figure Accelerator Program. It's my main program. It's the same name since when I first launched it back, like I think at the end of 2020. So it's like 4 years. It's technically the same program, the same product. It's changed obviously a lot. It's evolved and it's gotten better, but it's stayed the same. And there's a lesson in there. If I had launched a new program every 3 months, I don't think I'd have the same kind of trust and buy-in with people, because I have people that work with me now that have seen my content for 3 years. And they're like, oh yeah, no, I just needed a few years to kind of get things ready. And I'm like, okay, well, if I had changed and done different offers and, complicated the process, maybe they would have got put off and said, hey, I don't even know what this guy does. I'm now not even going to work with him. So offer is the first thing. The second thing I'd focus on is your traffic. And then third is the sales, as you mentioned. How do we actually convert traffic into people that buy your stuff? And traffic is one where, again, you would have seen, we kind of talked about this as well. A lot of people overcomplicate that, and they will wait for the fancy camera, the fancy lighting, the best backdrop, the best environment to film content, all that stuff. We know that's BS, right? We know it works, yes, like anything, but is it necessary? No, it's not. So volume in the game, like if you're on social media, you're on Instagram, and that's where you're going to get most of your clients, or that's where they spend time. Well, then why not post 2 to 3 times a day, right? What's stopping you? Probably nothing. You might say, oh, but I don't have the time. And well, a lot of my content gets made in 5 minutes. So, that's 15 minutes to do 3 videos a day, right? Or, okay, I don't really know what to talk about or content ideas. It's like, you do. You really, truly do. You just need to know where to look, how to study the market, but also you need to figure out how to listen to your ideas, because you have ideas in your head. You have thoughts in the shower, when you're walking, all that stuff that you can use for your content. And so then when we look at the sales process, Plamen, for most people, as you know, because you've done a lot of appointment setting and you've gotten really good at that DM process, like that's where a lot of sales are going to happen. Yes, you can look at taking sales calls and having VSLs and, great landing pages that walk people through the journey. But ultimately, the conversation is the most important piece. And I truly, truly believe that as well. So if you've got good content consistently going out, that should be your traffic piece sorted. If you're posting 2 to 3 times a day, you should have videos that do get some traction. Not every video will, but you should, unless your content is just really not good. It's not engaging. If you're doing that, you should have the next problem, which is great. You've got lots of followers coming in, lots of people looking at your stuff, but maybe nobody's actually interested. They're not reaching out saying, hey, Plamen, I want to buy your stuff. Well, great, because now that's where the DM conversation piece comes in. And so an analogy I'll give to people from my business, which might help them understand the power of this part, is that my coaching business, I remember at one point, was doing maybe 700 or 800 euro per month. All right. So I was trying to get to a 1K a month. And we did that for a few months, right? I think I did like 5 months at that rate. And obviously at that point, I was thinking, this doesn't work. I'm not good at this. Maybe this isn't for me, because my agency, which I was doing full time at the time, was doing a lot better. I was doing multiple 6 figures a year. So I was like, this is kind of a waste of time. What I realized is that in 1 month, and this is a fact, we went from that 700 to 800 a month to like 5 or 6K a month in a month, right? And so 5 to 6K a month isn't insane, but to go from 700, 800 a month for 5 months, it's a big jump, big jump. And I didn't get loads of new followers that month. I didn't have content that went mega viral. I had the same number of followers roughly, but the difference was the DMs. I actually took DMs seriously. I said, look, I've got a couple thousand followers. Surely there's some people here where if I just talk to them, don't just try and sell them like on my stories, trying to sell my stuff all the time, but just talk to them, start a conversation, see is there any interest, see is there a gap that maybe I could come in and help with. And voila, it worked, and it wasn't a crazy script. It wasn't crazy complicated, but it was just simple volume and human nature. People need to speak to people before they buy stuff, unless we're selling low ticket, which I wasn't. Okay. So I think that's a pretty powerful analogy, because for me, it opened my eyes and it really got me to focus in on, yes, continue with content. Yes, continue growing, but man, don't forget about the conversations, right? And if you do conversations and you do DMs and you're like, yeah, but it still doesn't work for me. It does work though. So you just need to rejig your process, figure that out, and kind of analyze what has been working and why is it not working to the level it could. Because for my business, it's where we get most of our sales. It's where we have done for the last few years. And so, yeah, if I was to wrap it up, man, those three key areas, if you can just nail in on those, really shouldn't be any reason as to you feeling confused or unsure of how you're going to grow, because those are the pillars. And if you dial those in and work on them every day, it'll work. It won't work right away, but it might take a few months, but you will get there for sure.
What have you found in terms of, I know things now, like what one of my biggest kind of lessons from hearing your talk was just keeping things super simple, like almost like one funnel, one way of doing things. Is that what you feel? I guess, what's your full process on now? Is that kind of what you'd recommend for most people? Do you find most people seem to overcomplicate it, especially at the beginning? Like I know I have, and that's kind of what really interesting.
Definitely, man. That's kind of, and like I didn't start thinking that simplicity was the thing that was going to scale. It's just true. Seeing what I did in the agency and what I did in the starting phase of my coaching business, I just overcomplicated, like I made things way more complex than they needed to be. And, when we look at most beginners that fall into that trap, which is nearly everybody, we're doing it out of a place of it gives us comfort, right? There's comfort in complexity, right? Because if you're not seeing the growth that you want to see, and then you see a 10-minute YouTube video from me and I'm telling you about these crazy systems I've got, you all of a sudden go, oh, cool, that's the one thing I need to do, right? It's that I just don't have all the systems. So I need a more complex business.
Again, thank you, Plamen, for inviting me onto your podcast. Great questions. And this was just one of the little nuggets that we found from our session. If you want to know more about what I do and how I help people do what I did, you can see there's information in the description of the video. Just go down below here. I'll show you step by step how I've done it and how I can help you do it too.